This is the IBJ podcast for the week of September the 2nd, 2019. I'm Mason King. Upland Brewing Company has been with us now for about 21 years. Its main brewery and first brewpub opened in Bloomington in 1998, and it got well ahead of the craft beer craze, and today it's the third largest Indiana brewery. That's behind Sun King in Indianapolis and Three Floyds in Munster. But from the beginning, its focus has been somewhat divided between the business of brewing beer and the business of running a restaurant. And although beer is the common denominator here, these businesses are significantly different. But as beer production has grown and Upland's beer distribution has fanned out nationally, the food service side also has expanded. In 2013, Upland opened its tap house location in Carmel with a full menu. In 2016, it opened its pump house location in Columbus, also with a full kitchen. Since the beginning of this year, it has waded even deeper into the restaurant business. The tasting room that Upland opened in 2009 at 49th and College here in Indianapolis took over a restaurant space next door. That's the old Open Society Public House. And on August the 1st, it opened a 13,000 square foot brew pub in Fountain Square, southeast of downtown. And this all raises the question about Upland's business strategy in its third decade of business. Does it see a lot of potential for growth in the notoriously fickle restaurant business? Does it still see itself as a brewing company that maintains some restaurants, or is it shifting toward being a restaurant company that brews its own beer, or somewhere in between? So joining me in the studio is Pete Batule, Chief Operating Officer for Upland. And Pete, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So should people look at these moves and assume that Upland is kind of changing direction, that it's interested in becoming a restaurant company, or is at least like trying to aggressively expand in that way?
Our goal is really to bring our beer to Indianapolis in a bigger way. And I think, our experience with our restaurants and our retail locations is it's our best way to express our brand and an experience with Upland. And making the improvements to our College Ave location, adding food, it's something we know how to do. We can give a great experience there. That was an opportunity that came up that we wanted to take advantage of and kind of give an even better beer experience. And then with Fountain Square, we had been looking for a larger site for years when we saw the Value World site and that in that neighborhood as a big reason why we chose it. Fountain Square really resonates with us, with our culture, and we thought it was a place that really we wanted to plant some roots and continue to be a part of that community.
But is this something like philosophically as a company where you're like, we really want to like open maybe 1 or 2 or 3 new restaurants a year?
That's not something we've talked a lot about, but I do think we are a brewery at heart. So we lead with our beer. That's where we were founded. That's kind of the lifeblood of our company is brewing really world-class, wonderful beers. We can do some things a little bit differently in our retail locations. We can showcase all the different beers that we make all together. Up at Fountain Square, we have 20 different tap lines, all Upland beers, showcasing our sour beers as well that we make at our wood shop.
When you say create experiences, I mean, that seems very markety jargony to me. What does that mean?
Yeah, and so for us, we make a pretty broad portfolio of beers. A lot of folks have heard of us about our sours, our sour beers, wood-aged beers. Kind of nationally, we have received some recognition with that. But that's part of it is a really awesome drinking experience. And, we aren't hyper-specialized in one particular style. So we want folks to be able to experience whatever type of beer that they would love to drink. I think we have a beer that, for folks that don't like beer or what you typically think of an IPA or a Pilsner, our sour beers, our tart beers are really starting to, I think, open up minds of a lot of folks because they've never tried that or never had anything that tasted quite like that before, or even maybe not aware of what a sour beer even really is. At some of our locations, we're doing tours. We will do that at Fountain Square. We do it at the wood shop. We do it at our main production brewery. So the tour experience and then the culinary experience with our food. We have some really amazing chefs. Each location has a little bit different type of menu, and there's really nice food and beer pairings.
So it kind of sounds like, in a way, you think of the restaurants, the brew pubs, as another form of marketing.
I would say to a certain degree, yeah. It's the expression of our brand and what we're about.
So how many barrels do you brew a year? Or how many would you expect to brew this year?
Yeah, we're around 16 or 17,000 barrels. Barrel is 31 gallons.
Am I right that you were the third largest?
Yes.
Indiana-based brewer, I think,
yes.
behind Sun King in Indianapolis, and Three Floyds in Munster.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So good size.
Yeah.
So of the 16 to 17,000 barrels that you would expect it to make this year, how many of them would be sold through these retail?
Roughly between, say, 3,000 and 4,000 barrels out of our own locations across all locations.
So the rest is being distributed to traditional retail locations,
Yeah,
for example, or other restaurants, other bars?
Yeah, so we have wholesale partners that we all throughout the state of Indiana. So 90% of that remaining beer is sold here in Indiana. And then about 10% is going kind of nationwide. Most of that is our sour beer, but we're also starting to distribute beers like Champagne Velvet and some of our specialty side trail IPAs. Those are making out to a few markets outside the country, and those are growing as well. So we're growing in parts of Indiana. We're also growing in parts of the country with all of our beer.
Why not open some restaurants in Ohio or Illinois or Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, our focus really is Indiana. You know, we're a small independent company, family-owned company. We think there is still tremendous opportunity to grow here in Indiana. And this statistic might be kind of dated a little bit. No, several years ago, you know, of all the beer that's drank, that is consumed in Indiana, about 6% of it is craft beer. And I think even smaller percentage of that, 1% to 2%, is Indiana craft beer. And so we feel that there's still tremendous growth here in Indiana. And like a lot of businesses, as you expand further and further away, it gets more difficult to manage. And there's, you know, we think we're kind of spread out already between Bloomington and Indianapolis, 7 locations. So we really want to make sure we're doing everything we can here locally first.
Do you run the risk of splitting the company's focus too much between just sort of straight brewing and then being kind of a restaurateur?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that we are learning as we're going through. Our first large restaurant location was in Columbus at the Pump House. A really beautiful space, revitalized building, and it's now one of our best performing locations. But like with any big project in a business, you know, resources kind of get pulled to the biggest thing going on. And, you know, we ran that risk, the same risk with Fountain Square. Is a very big project. You know, are we going to lose focus at all the other locations? And we learned from Columbus, and we transferred a lot of those learnings at startup, things like hiring folks early and getting training. And, you know, so that from that aspect of it, we've learned a lot and done a lot to be proactive and not lose focus. You know, really leading with beer is how we don't lose focus. So we bring a lot of staff down to the brewery in Bloomington before they start, go through the brewing process, and just really try to make sure everybody kind of knows the beers, and we lead with that.
What was the biggest, maybe unexpected challenge of the Fountain Square site?
Probably civil engineering, things like that,
Oh, yeah,
plumbing issues, you know, thinking we can tie in here, we can't tie in here, we have to go to a different spot. So there's, from my perspective, that was the biggest unexpected, because we decided not to, you know, just demo the site and build something new. We wanted to preserve as much as we possibly could. Like the mural on the side of the building, we were really adamant about don't touch that. But
did you guys buy the building?
Oh no, we are working with Millhouse. We leased with Millhouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think this was completely unexpected, but honestly, we were really thrilled with the reception and how people responded. And the bike shop was something. I guess that is something that was really unexpected. You know, we had conversations early on, like, well, what if we put a bike shop in there? And we didn't think really long and hard about that. It was just, it resonated with us. It's a part of our culture, cycling, sustainability. A lot of folks at Upland love to ride bikes.
Right. Just so people understand, there's like 1,000 square foot Gray
Goat bikes, yeah.
Right, which is a separate operator.
Yes.
Bike shop.
Yes.
Inside the brew pub.
I would say that was a surprise. The reception we did our first press release, people were really excited about bike shop in a brewery, more so than we ever expected, and we're thrilled about it. I think it's adding to the community there, something they didn't really have there in Fountain Square. In the craft beer industry, but cycling or being active in brewing, it does kind of go together. Oftentimes after a long run, you know, reward yourself with a beer. And like I said, it's a big part of our culture too.
You had the ballpark, like the investment in creating the Fountain Square location, what would it be?
It's probably around $2 million. Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're working within an existing building too.
Yes.
What usually ends up being the most expensive thing?
We do have a brew system there. So there's lots of stainless steel. They're not very cheap to put in. Lots of piping and plumbing and electrical. The kitchen equipment is also very expensive. So those are kind of probably the two biggest.
When I think about, or when I now think about the college location and the Fountain Square location, I think Redline. Was that any part of your thinking?
I can recall going back to College Ave, us, as part of that, making that decision, the red line was in the conversations. So, and that wasn't necessarily the driver for Fountain Square, but it's great that there's a connection there.
Now, I know there's one school of thought that says if you're going to brand a family of restaurants like Upland, they need to be very similar. With similar menus, similar personalities. So people will go, oh, here's this brand. I can go get the same food that I get here that I get somewhere else. But I take it that Upland doesn't exactly do that.
We definitely embrace diversity from that perspective. None of our locations are the same. Like when you walk in, every site is laid out differently. It's a very, very different experience. And that is somewhat intentional. We don't want to just have a cookie cutter approach to what we're doing. We thrive on innovation and creativity. The things that we keep consistent is the welcoming environment. We have the same beers on at most locations. So that's one thing.
Do you just sell Upland beer? That's
yes.
Okay.
Yes. We do not have any other.
So I can't get a PBR or a Michelob?
No, we're only Upland. There are some items on our menu that we do keep consistent across locations. Some of our fan favorites from the pub. The pub is our Bloomington location where we started. So there's some things there that we've kept at a lot of locations, and even some things at Columbus that we've created that have gone over really well. We'll take those and have those at other locations. But we always leave room for the chef at each location to have some creativity, try some new things. And those ideas are shared. And if things go really well at one location, we may try it at others.
Besides the bike shop in Fountain Square, was there something there where you felt like, okay, we're in Fountain Square, we have to have this?
Outdoor patio, a big outdoor drinking space. That was something we have out pretty much every one of our locations, but also we felt like that was something that really could help fit in with Fountain Square. There's a couple patios there too, and so that's a big piece of it. We have really large outdoor patio, dog friendly, family friendly.
Did you guys do any advanced work with the area?
Yes, definitely. There was a handful of partnerships that we've been participating in Fountain Square. Actually, years and years ago, our sales offices used to be in Fountain Square.
Oh, okay.
We've done some work with Square Cat Vinyl locally. We're a sponsor for the downtown square there. We've been working with some of the local artists in the area. So Emily Gable, she actually did the inside artwork partnership with a cyclist artist named Dustin Klein. We've also worked with the muralist locally with the Fab Crew. So the original mural that was on the side of the building, as we opened up some of it to put in our garage doors for the bar, we actually affected part of the mural. We asked them to come back and touch that up.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break so we can hear from our sponsor. This is the IBJ Podcast.
The IBJ Podcast is sponsored by Krieg DeVault, a trusted and dynamic law firm representing a wide variety of local, regional, and national clients. Committed to each other and to every client, Krieg DeVault prides itself on integrity, professionalism, respect, and excellence. Financial institutions, global manufacturers, national healthcare providers, and successful organizations of all sizes and market focus rely on Krieg DeVault to create innovative and successful business solutions. Connect today at www.kriegdevault.com.
Okay, we're back with this week's edition of the IBJ Podcast. I'm Mason King. I'm talking with Pete Batule of Upland Brewing Company. I did want to ask about that other line that you mentioned of the sour beers.
Yeah.
I think I might have had one a while ago. It indeed was sour. But what is that?
Yeah, so sour beers originated in Belgium. So it's a Belgian style of beer. But what makes them different is you brew them in a completely different way than your normal Pilsner or IPAs. Those we age in wood for anywhere from 3 months up to 3 years, almost like a wine or spirit type of an aging process. But the reason why we age for so long is it's actually a very long fermentation. And during that fermentation, they're breaking down all the little sugars and making acid. And that acid and those beautiful like fruit flavors are what make these beers very, very different. And it's very much a complex acidity to these beers. So some associate more closer to like a wine, but we'll age these beers on whole fruits. So we'll use raspberries or cherries.
That's what it was. Thank you. It was a raspberry beer, yeah.
Raspberry, yeah. So we'll use local fruits. We use local strawberries, blueberries, cherries we get from Michigan. We age these beers in barrels, in wood barrels, on wood, for, like I said, up from 3 months up to 3 years to create these really complex beers.
What's the business case for doing that?
It's something that back in 2006, we started dabbling with. We traded some cases of beer with Oliver Winery for some barrels. And we discovered, one, it's something we're very passionate about. These are beautiful beers, are very, very hard to make. And we found we were getting pretty good at making these beers. And so it's a very niche type of a market. These are not made in mass production. They're very small batch, very niche, kind of the higher end of the beer market. So it's something we've won some awards with, and we're pretty proud of making. These beers are also, because of the labor and the time, we actually have a little bit higher price point for these beers. So
if you lead with those, does that open up markets for you with regular Upland beer?
That is something that we have seen some great success with. When we went into, say, DC or New York or LA, we did lead with our sour beers. That's what most people across the country, if they've heard of Upland Brewing before, they heard about our sours. They were being traded all over the country at one point when we were a really small batch. They'd trade for other rare beers. And so we were able to establish a reputation, establish some credibility with those beers, and now they're starting to ask for some of our other beers. And that this year was really the first where we really embraced and started to ship some of our other beers out, and it's been going really well. And it's still in some select markets. It's not entire states, but California, New York, DC, Philly, those are some of our bigger outside markets.
Are there some outside of the United States, though?
Yes, we do. We are kind of shipping internationally. We've sent some things over to Netherlands, Canada. We're looking at Japan potentially a little bit that way, and Russia.
So, like at the end of this year, how many barrels of sour beers do you think you would have made?
It's hard to say right now, honestly. We're probably on a trajectory of around 1,000 barrels, or maybe more than that.
So 5, 6, 7%.
Yes.
Right now, total.
Yes.
But do you anticipate that getting increasing quite a bit?
I think it'll continue to grow a little bit, but I don't think we're not gonna make 10,000 barrels of sour beer.
One question that's just kind of out of nowhere. Here at the Business Journal, we talk a lot about whether or not there's a recession coming. Is that something that you guys can factor into your thinking?
I think we're a very entrepreneurial company, so we're always looking for opportunities to grow. And so we've been able to kind of diversify what we do a lot. A couple of years ago, we started a catering business, so that's starting to grow a lot more now. We recently announced we'll be at the IU Stadium selling beer there. And in terms of recession planning, it's not something we talk a lot internally about. Kind of joking here, but they do say a lot of beer is consumed during a recession. So you can almost say beer is recession proof, but I don't have any data to back that up.
Well, that was one of my questions. I don't know if you were the company in 2009, but did people start drinking more beer? Or did they drink the same amount of beer?
We were growing pretty well in 2009. So,
okay.
Our growth rates for the last several years have been pretty steady. So,
okay. And finally, do you have any plans right now for any more locations for an 8th or 9th?
No plans right now. No plans right now. We kind of started 7 locations. It's a lot, and I think each of them have opportunity for growth. All of our locations do. So, and we want to make sure we're providing a really great experience at every single one. And we have an opportunity to sell a lot of our beer through those locations now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
My thanks again to Pete Batule. IBJ reporter Susan Orr has an in-depth look at Upland's brewing and restaurant operations in this week's print edition of IBJ. Also in this issue, Anthony Shetley has a wide-ranging story about the many challenges the Indianapolis Colts face now that centerpiece Andrew Luck is out of the picture. Nearly every aspect of the organization needs rethinking, from ticket sales to marketing to personnel moves. And Haley Colombo, also this week, takes a deep dive into how tech firm Genesis, which has more than 800 employees in Indianapolis, is trying to change its hiring practices to move the needle on its percentage of female employees. You can read all about these stories in the copy of IBJ you have delivered to your home or office, or at ibj.com. And remember, for full and unfettered access to all of IBJ's award-winning business content, just hit the subscribe button. Thanks again for making time this week for the IBJ podcast, which is edited by Leslie Weidenbender. I'm Mason King, and we'll be back again next week.